Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Frosty. Today we're going to work on a 2004 F550 with a 6-liter in it. A buddy of mine has a problem with the steering column and the shifter. So today we're going to replace the shift cable and the entire steering column. We got to take it out anyways to fix the part that's broken on it. But I'm going to show you how to take out a steering column on a Super Duty. 99 to 07 should be roughly about the same. So we'll take that steering column out and we'll repair the broken pieces on it or swap those pieces out. Put it back together with a new shift cable and hopefully it'll be shifting good, because right now you're just pulling the cable to get it to shift between park and drive and reverse. So this is the truck. It's a 2004 F550. This is the shifter cable that goes down to the transmission. You can see up here that this is broke. This is the piece that broke off. Those two bolts actually bolt onto the steering column. So we picked up a new shift cable for an 04. That's your part number. And then we got a used steering column, which is kind of nice because this is a tilt column with cruise control. And this one is no cruise control, no tilt. So we're gonna see if we can get that to work. So this is the column that's gonna go in it. And you can kind of see what broke on this one, or what actually broke on this one here, is where it bolts up. There's a bolt here and there's a bolt here. And then it turns like this, it rotates, and it pulls your cable in and out. And because this cable was getting stiff on this truck, put a lot of extra torque on here when you went to shift it between gears. Eventually these two just broke off, which is that piece down there. So we're gonna go ahead and just swap the whole columns out. Looks like we'll have to maybe do some disassembly and swap some parts out, but in the end we'll have a truck with a working shifter, a new cable, and hopefully at least tilt. I think we can get the cruise control to work, but I'm not sure if the master cylinder has the safety switch in it, so we'll have to take a look at that. When you go to pull these apart, this is like a clamshell, and there should be 3 screws on the bottom. 1, 2, and 3. You start with pulling those out. Alright, pull those 3 screws out. You can see the bottom of your column. Now I'm going to want to use this key here. So there's a really easy way to get this out, but you have to have your key. So you stick your key in, and then underneath here you can see this little ball. All you have to do is have your key in the right position. You push in this ball and your whole cylinder will pop out. So we're gonna do that next. Okay, so you turn your ignition on, you depress this little ball up in here. And once you've got that pressed in, you just pull your whole key out. And that's how it comes out. And you can change your locks pretty easy this way. Now the whole reason I pulled this out was this didn't come with our used column, and this matches the doors. So when I pull this column out, I want to use the original key. I'll leave the cylinder out. This top piece comes right off. Put that down there. Now you can see the top of your column where all your wires are. So we're going to take this off. This is your main ignition, and then there's a bolt back here we're going to take off, and that connects your steering column to the shaft that goes through your firewall. And then we'll just start unplugging the electrical connectors, and there's a couple of bolts you got to take out. You use one up in here, and then there's one right up in here. You gotta take those out. Well, the bolt to take your shaft out is a 10 millimeter. This is a 10 millimeter bolt. And your joint should just slip right off of there. We'll take some coercing off camera here, but we'll get that off. Next, we're going to take off the windshield wiper and turn signal stock. There's a screw up here, the same screw right here. And then you have your overdrive or tow haul mode switch. You unplug that from the harness here, and then you just unplug it here and here, and this whole thing will come out. And you just unplug it here and here. As you can see, it comes out real easy. Some of the stuff you don't have to take off, but I like to make it as condensed as possible and as small as possible. And I'm going to switch out a lot of this stuff anyhow between the two columns, so out she comes. Alright, a couple more things. This is your ignition. There's two, let's see, Torx 30s that hold those in. So those just go right up through there, and they bolt right into the column. So make sure you pull those out, and then your ignition comes down. Now, if you have an automatic truck, you also have this little cable that goes up to your shift indicator, and when you pull on this, you can see that it moves your needle. Now that has an adjustment wheel on it. This one was actually broken, but this is the adjustment wheel, and this whole piece goes up into this little white plastic piece. This is the part that's broken. This should be shaped like a C, and it's missing part of its plastic. But all you have to do is unwind that wheel all the way until this comes out, and then you can pull this out. A lot of guys will break these when they pull them apart, so make sure that you get that. And way up in here, you have another plug, and that's for like your shift interlock. When you hit your brake pedal, that energizes the solenoid that lets you move your shifter lever. So make sure you get that unplugged. All right, all we have left is that bolt. That should be a 13 millimeter, and then there's one on the other side too. That's a 13 millimeter. So we'll pull those out, and then we should really get this slip yoke off, and the whole column should come out. So I actually just misspoke. There's those two, this one, and there's one on the other side. We got those out. And there's two more. They're further back. I don't know if we're gonna be able to see them. Right there. So there's one on each side. There's the other one. Now you just have to loosen those, because you see they're slotted. And once they're loosened, you should be able to pull it straight out. Okay, so I took those 4 bolts out of the bottom of the column, and it just didn't have a whole bunch of room to come out. So there's 4 10 millimeter bolts that hold this fuse box in place. Now, this is a 2004. I think like the 99s and 2000s, maybe the 01s don't have the same style box, but pull that out, and that should afford me plenty of room to get this pulled out. All right, we wiggled her out of there. This whole part here makes it difficult to get out. There's just not a whole lot of space, but if you take your time and make sure everything's unplugged, it will come out. So now we're going to compare this column to the other one that we have for parts. And really, this is the part that's broken here. This whole end is broke off. You can see where both bolts just sheared that off. So we have a couple options. We can swap columns, or we can swap the shifter. But let's compare to see if they're exactly the same or if they're different. This is a non-tilt column. It's funny though, I think you can actually make it a tilt column. This is the hinge right here. It goes all the way through. But interesting enough, I bet you could take a standard column that's not tilt and make it tilt pretty easily. Let's put these side by side and see what they look like. All right, from what I can tell, the columns are exactly the same. This is out of the parts truck that has cruise. And it has a couple more wires in this plug than this one does. You can see there's no wires in those top 4 holes. This one's got 3 wires in the top and 3 wires in the bottom. So you've got 3 more wires in the column with cruise control. Otherwise, I don't see any real differences. There are parts of each of these columns that are in better shape than the other. This shift interlock is nice and free on the old column. The parts column, it's sticky, so I don't really like that. So you might have to swap those 2 around. This one's much cleaner. Looks like the bushings are in better shape. But again, this is the whole reason we're changing this out. So, may take some pieces from each of them and combine them. But for the most part, I think that they'll be a pretty easy swap. Alright, the whole reason all this column has to come out is because the original shift cable got really stiff. This is the new one. So we're going to pull the old one off and then we're going to put this new one on. And that goes through this little spot here on the floor. And it looks like it would feed through this way. So we'll have to take it back out this way. So I'll have to come up through the floor. So we'll go underneath the transmission, or underneath the truck by the transmission, and see what we can find here. So this is a little clip, little doodad that holds everything together. I believe all you have to do is pop this up. I don't know if that's supposed to come off quite that easy, but this little spacer here, it's got teeth on the top and the bottom, and it just kind of holds it, so you've got some adjustment on your cable. Now that comes right out. And then there's a clip up here. It's like a little C-clip. We'll pull that out, and that cable should come out of that bracket. Like I was saying earlier, I suspected this cable would be really tough to move. It takes a lot of, I would think, strain on that column to break those 2 cast pieces like this. And I was right. This does move, but it's not free to slide like it should. You gotta really put a lot of effort into it. So every time you're cranking on that park, drive, reverse, going back and forth, you're really torquing it quite a bit. So this cable led to all this extra work. Like I showed you before, it goes up there, we'll pop that clip out, it should come out of that hole, and then going up to the firewall, that should just push right up through that grommet. Let's push that up through, pull this clip out. Just using a screwdriver to pull the C-clip out. It's pretty cold out here right now. It's probably 20 degrees Fahrenheit. So my hands are like ice cubes. There's your little clip. Put this down on the pavement for now. And then I assume this ear and this ear will need to be squeezed together, and then this should be able to slide right through there. I'm gonna have to set the camera down to get that. Well, it's a two-hander. All right, I got those pushed through, and it's just an easy removal once you get that. Move her around a little bit. And like I showed you before, this cable should just pop right up through the floor. So we'll go through to the top side and we'll pull it through. There it is, one shift cable. That looks just like the part that I got. Assuming this moves out, yep. So maybe this is a new design, maybe this is missing the boot, maybe that's why it got tough to move in the first place. I've got the same grommet here. This goes to the firewall. There's a little clip that stayed on the firewall, so I'll probably take this one off. Just make sure these ends look the same. And they do. Minus the color, little clips are the same. All right, then we've got a winner. All right, we've got our new cable routed back up through. That grommet's pulled, got it clipped into the firewall, and then we've got it just up here for the time being until I get the column back in. I left the side on the transmission loose so I could adjust the transmission last once I had everything back in up here. This was switched out for this one. I flip-flopped those. Now I'm just going to take this off, and I believe we can go ahead and put the columns back in then. This one had a better overdrive button. This one is there, but it's broken. Sure it still worked, but the steering wheel's got some wear on this. Might have to throw a new steering wheel on it someday, but for now we'll get the truck driving and shifting like it should. We can always take care of the cosmetic stuff later. All right, we got the column wriggled into place. You can see down in there, I've got the shifter cable put on the column, and now it's just a matter of bolting it back together. You can see way down there behind my light, it's a little black piece right at the end of my light here. That's the other end of the column, or the shift cable where it attaches to the column. Again, I've got it loose underneath just so I can make my final adjustment there. Yeah, all in all, it wasn't too bad of a job. Kind of hard to see. It wasn't so cold out here, and you could use your hands, you could feel your hands and fingers. Be a lot easier, but take what we can get, I guess. So I just ran into some bad news here. I think the clock spring in this is bad, because when I go to hook up this plug, I get a non-stop horn, which I'm pretty sure means the clock spring in this is bad. So now I'm taking this column out again and swapping more parts. I don't have a clock spring to replace it with, otherwise I just keep it here, but the downfall of buying used parts sometimes, I guess. But now I've got twice the work to do. Columns coming out twice and going in twice, so used parts, sometimes you get what you pay for. Paid 150 bucks for the column. I thought that was a fair price, not a good price, but now that the clock spring's broken, I would say that's not a good price. So maybe the seller will do the right thing and take it back or give us a discount, but I can only use just that shift part, that shift column down in there that I'll have to take off and switch back and put on the old one. But that's a little bit disappointing. All right, guys, I got the old column back in with a bunch of new parts from the parts column. When I plugged it back in, the horn didn't sound like it did the last time, so that's fixed. We got this little selector wound in the right way so the park and drive reverse indicators in the right spot. We got the steering column bolt back in. We've got the 4 bolts tightened up. We've got our ignition back in. All we have left is this bottom cover. You can see we've got our new cable ran against the firewall. That goes all the way up. Grab a light here so we can maybe see a little better. That goes all the way up under there. But anyways, we get all this buttoned back up. Everything seems to work underneath here. We've got our new shift cable locked in place. And then you can see up there, got the new C-clip over this cable. And then going up into the bottom of the floor, we got our grommet pulled through all the way. Ugh. We ended up using parts from both columns. This is that broken piece. And these are the old bushings. And the other set of bushings are in a lot nicer shape, so I took those out. But overall, wasn't too bad of a job. You can see park is at park. I can't shift it, push the brake in, and now I can go into all the gears. And they all line up. Neutral, drive, and then 3, 2, 1. Yeah, wasn't too bad of a job. I'm glad it's over with. Gonna put it back together now and give it back to my buddy. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope it makes that a little bit easier if you have to remove your column or do a shift cable. Probably took me 2 hours. If I wouldn't have had to pull this column out twice, would have been a lot faster. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next video.